Okay, you're recording.
I'm recording now?
Yeah.
Well, this is an interesting occasion. I guess I'll be talking about the earliest days of my life, first of all. Well, I'm talking now to the beloved members of my family, of which I have a large number. I was born on a farm in Michigan in March of 1912. Now those were happy days, despite the war. I, as a child, didn't have any consciousness of the war going on. I had a dog, Mix, that I loved, and he loved me. And we could wander all over that 360 plus acre farm, wade in the streams and all that sort of thing. And those were really happy days. I can remember many happy little incidents. We knew about what time of day the horse and buggy would come by delivering mail on the rural free delivery route. And we'd watch for him, my sister and I. And when he'd stop, we knew somebody had written us a letter. And we'd run down the big front lawn to the mailbox and bring the mail in for whoever the adults were there to read it. I can remember many other things. Those were the earliest days of airplanes. Airplanes were so few and far between in an area like that, that if you heard an airplane engine, people would run out of the house and go out and watch it until it appeared into sight, and watch it until it disappeared again. And I'm sure that almost all of them wondered, including myself, what in the world is keeping that up in the air? None of us, I'm sure, adults or children, of course, had any inkling of the technology involved in keeping that airplane up in the air. Now, even today, that idea fascinates me. Let me tell you a little about the farm on which I was raised. It was a 3-generation farm. Grandma and Grandpa Dietz, their children, my mother, my Uncle Walter, Uncle Edgar, Aunt Irma, and eventually the next generation down, my older sister Marin and myself. Now, Grandma Dietz, I loved everybody in that household. It was a happy household, full of love. And I can remember hearing stories. I can even remember my grandmother telling about how she had been married, a daughter of my great-grandparents, the Boswells. In Manistee they lived. And she was only 16 when she was married to my grandpa Henry Dietz and moved out to the farm. Well, they didn't have honeymoons in those days. The farm had to be attended to. And the day after they moved into the farm, she tells about how he had given her an orientation on what she might expect. There were Indians of a tribe, Ojibwe tribe, lived in that area of Michigan. Not too many. There was no nearby reservation. But they were not unexpected visitors, 4, 5, 6 times a year to the household. And their practices were such that to them it was ethical for them they wouldn't knock on the door and wait to be invited in. They would walk right in. And Grandpa Dietz had to explain to Grandma, 16-year-old bride, that she shouldn't be afraid of them. she would be well advised to let them look around and then offer them something as a gift. A piece of ribbon, a kitchen knife of some kind, perhaps a needle and thread. That would fascinate them. And they would nod and go away, always kept sober-faced. But I remember I'd get the biggest kick out of one of her stories about the first meal she cooked on the farm. Grandpa Dietz had to go to a faraway acreage to do whatever he had to do, plow or harrow or disc or whatever. And he told her that he wouldn't be home for lunch, but he'd be home for dinner. And showed her how to cook a big pot of beans, bean soup. And when he came home, she was crying. She'd had to throw it all out because it was wormy, she thought. She was so unversed in cooking that she didn't know that what she thought was worms in that soup were those little center spots of the bean that in the process of cooking come loose. She thought those were worms. And of course, when she told the story, she had to laugh at herself. Well, as the years went by on the farm, or the months or whatever, sometimes the men would be working close enough so that she'd let them know when lunch was ready. Outside she'd go, and there was a bell high on a post at one end of the house, and she'd pull the cord and ring the bell. And how proud I was when she'd let me do it, ring the bell and bring them into lunch.